All right, everyone. Welcome back to Stories from a Mountain Town. This is your host, Tyler, coming at you from, as always, Jackson, Wyoming, up here on Saddle Butte at my house. And today I have another close friend of mine, Noah Rial. Welcome to the podcast.
Happy to be here.
Wonderful. And as always, we have our guest pick or bring an alcohol of their choosing. And if anybody that knows Noah, obviously he brought PBR pounders. So we'll crack into these and we'll pour us into a glass.
Of course. What else would I be bringing to the table here?
Totally on brand for Noah.
Yeah, I figured.
What made you start drinking PBR over like a a Coors Light or Bud Light or whatever other light beers?
Okay. As putting it into perspective with that, going to school in Vermont, I think it was just a very prevalent beer to be drinking in college.
Yeah.
In Vermont, I don't know if it has to do with PBR
Cheers.
being a popular beer within the ski community or something along the lines of that. And it was a lot of my friends were older than me. Were like, oh yeah, PBR, here you go.
Yeah.
I was
it's a great college beer because it's always cheap.
Yeah, so it was just quickly familiar to me. Well, in college you're drinking whatever you can get, and if that's what you can get, once something's familiar, once you're familiar with something, it's like
Definitely.
I'll be all about it. So I would say friends had influenced that.
Yeah, PBR is a funny beer because it's like you're either if you drink it regularly, you're either like a blue collar guy in Wisconsin,
yes.
or a hipster ski person. Like There's no in between. There's not like I can't even think of any in between, but like you wouldn't find like a nurse drinking it.
Mm-hmm.
Like none of Taylor's friends would drink it.
I think it does kind of have a niche community, a niche market, you might say.
Yeah.
But I think it's funny and also kind of awesome that it's so heavy in the ski community.
Yeah, because it's just a beer
and it probably just comes from being cheap and being accessible in most parts of the country.
Yeah, and now that they've done this design thing on the can for a while.
Yeah.
Once it got into that, then it's like all the artists.
Which is cool that they do. They do so. It's all through their. I think most of it now is through their Instagram. It's like Instagram contests, like fan art, like post this.
Yeah.
Yada yada yada.
A lot of
and
different.
Then you can be on our next can.
Yeah, a lot of different. Like different alcohols are doing shit like this. Stillworks here, Stillworks, JH Stillworks here in town. They make gin and vodka.
Yeah, and I talked to one of the guys that he was doing a promotional thing at the liquor store at the Bird.
So they like on the inside of the bottle there's a label, and they pick a design for that every year. There's a local artist do it, and the one right now is the Great Gray Owl face, and it's like that. Okay. It's like that owl face. It looks like it's like a satellite dish on their face, basically. And that's I have a bottle here. I'm not going to grab it. But, and then the next year's one is like a cool design of a buffalo.
Okay.
So it's a cool way to community involvement.
I think the local
helping out
local artist thing is cool.
Yeah, who knows if PBR is like a Milwaukee guy or whatever. Honestly, that skyline
could be.
It kind of looks like Minneapolis, actually.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
That is a city among many that I have not ventured to.
Yeah, I haven't
been to a lot of cities.
Really? Well, you've driven from here. So Noah grew up in Rhode Island, and went to college in Vermont.
Yep.
And
both
then
those places.
Yeah.
In my heart.
Yes. And so you've driven through basically the entire country to get here. The multiple times you've gone back and forth.
Yep.
So you see a lot of I think. Because I do a lot of road trips too, driving through a state or an area, it way better than if you flew somewhere and spent more time in that spot. Because you're in random gas
So you're
stations, and
saying,
you're like seeing what the people experience.
getting there adds value
Yeah.
to the experience of the place
Yeah, it's that cliche
of
of
the
like
destination.
yeah, it's that cliche of
right,
like
right.
the journey is
something about
also the destination or
something
something.
about
There's a cliche about like
100%.
the journey is the adventure as much as the destination is, or something.
Yeah. I'm sure somebody could tell us where we're wrong and what and how that goes, but something along the lines of that. Yes.
Yeah.
And there's some value to it because
Yeah, because there's always even if you have a smooth road trip, you're seeing parts of the country that most don't. And then if you have a rocky road trip, like it's kind of sometimes that type 2 fun where you look back on it and it's like, oh, that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Like the first time I was gonna drive to Jackson from Minnesota, we were gonna leave. It was like around Christmas time, and they projected a storm to come in like next week. And we get up to go, and they're like, "Oh, it actually snuck up on us. It came through the Dakotas way faster, and it's gonna happen tomorrow." So we're driving through the middle of South Dakota, and they close the freeways. And there's not many states actually close freeways.
Yeah.
But South Dakota is one of them.
Does. Yeah.
Yeah, Wyoming does.
Interstate.
But Minnesota doesn't.
Okay.
They would just, probably more resources basically, more plows.
Uh-huh.
And so we had to go off the freeway and go onto like old highway, whatever, and just rip around because we needed to keep moving. And we finally got to a point, a little town called Faith, South Dakota. It's like in the western half, but off the freeway a ways. We're just getting some gas, and they're like, "Where you headed?" And we're like, "Jackson, Wyoming." And they're like, "Not tonight, you're not." And we're like, "Why not?" And they said, "Well, there's a 15-foot drift in the middle of the road just past town." We're like, "Okay, is there any hotels in town?" And luckily there was one that was open, and we stayed there. But like in the moment, it was like, "Oh, this isn't all that fun," because we'd rather be in Jackson, obviously. But now we look back on it, it was like a funny story that happened. And the town of Faith is like, they found this, like the largest T-Rex fossil ever was found in Faith.
That's one of the coolest things to have your town known by.
Right, and they named it Sue. The T-Rex. Yeah,
it's amazing.
I don't know how they can tell if it's a male or female, but
they picked the name Sue.
But yeah. Like I would have never known that you find actually even that you find T-Rex bones in South Dakota.
You wouldn't have found that out.
Yeah, wouldn't have that experience.
There goes the whole journey, destination, value type of saying. I actually had a similar experience driving out here, like when I was driving out here for the first time, which I hadn't been to Jackson prior to moving here, with my dad. Which is funny that you said that because I was with my dad drove out here with me and then flew back home. But we were in eastern Wyoming somewhere. I don't remember which town. One of like the somewhat bigger towns in like eastern Wyoming.
Casper.
Might have been
Riverton.
Casper. Probably Casper.
Casper's like the biggest one on that side.
Yeah. And we stayed in a hotel there, and a snowstorm came in overnight, and we had to make sure with like the people at the front desk of the hotel before we left that there weren't like where we were going wasn't closed. So we were talking with them. They were like, yeah, if you're traveling today, make sure like pretty much anywhere out of here is closed.
Yeah.
And like the road, like there was so many road closures. Things ended up opening back up, clearing up on our way. But right when we left town, worst driving conditions I've ever been a part of. Like complete whiteout. You couldn't see up from down, couldn't see right from left.
You like vertigo.
And I was driving. Yeah, it was like vertigo style. Like you had no depth perception because there was nothing to perceive. There was nothing you were seeing. It was just white because there was these kind of like hill type butte type of things like next to the road that were just dumping snow. Like just dumping snow right onto the road. So like it was windy.
Yeah.
So the wind was picking snow up and dumping it right on us. So it was not only was it snowing, it was just wind like swirling around the car. So, and I'd like, driven in like quite a bit of snow, just like being in Vermont and like going to and from Vermont and Rhode Island. Like, a decent bit, but like nowhere to the point of this where it was like, okay, I have to pull over, but I don't know where I'm pulling over. So that was wild because it was just me and my dad, and like it was just funny to see like how my dad reacted to that situation and how I did, and it was like I don't know, it was pretty wild, but definitely similar to your situation. We kind of have to figure out, do we have to change the route we're going? Do we have to go back to, do we turn around in this? What's going on? Ended up driving like 3 more minutes, cleared up enough, like road was cleared, perfectly fine. And then it was smooth sailing the rest of the way. And that was the last day of our trip. I think we did it in 4 days. So we ended up just coming into Jackson that day. Yeah, we did. I want to say it was 4 days. Because, I mean, it's 32 hours. So, yeah, we split it up enough. Like, and I was like, Dad, like, I can do this trip. Like, no worries. He was like, no, like, you got to do it in multiple days or else you'll be fried. So we did that, and that worked. But yeah, just wanted to say, similar story.
Yeah, definitely. And so Noah, there's actually a trend here. Noah is now the third Stio employee and close friend of mine that we've had on the show. Tell the nice people your role at Stio.
So similarly to Alex, who I believe you guys heard from on the last show, I'm currently working in the customer experience department at Stio. Stio, super cool place to work. Super down, awesome people. I value that a lot. But should I talk about like what I done prior, or like that type of thing, or?
For Stio, have you done other stuff for Stio?
Yeah. So before this, so like leading into this, I interned with the marketing department at Stio, and that was kind of the whole opportunity for me, like coming out here, moving to Jackson, was the opportunity that came with getting having the opportunity to be an intern at Stio with their marketing department. I was like, yeah, that's cool, that's badass. And just like Jackson had been a place on the list, for a while, and that was, there was opportunity there, and there were, there was, a few things as for why coming out here. But the opportunity with Stio was one of them. Anyways, was about to go off on a tangent, but I'll just talk about that first. So yeah, like we're like working, for Stio, interning was great. And then having the opportunity to stay within the company, but have a different role, I thought was great, because I didn't know if I was going to be in Jackson after my internship or not. And then having the opportunity to do that was pretty sweet. So,
how many times have you been to Jackson before you got the job, the internship here?
So prior to getting an internship at Stio, I hadn't been to Jackson. I haven't even visited here. I had just known, just having been a skier, and being in, having been a skier, there were a number of places that were, on the list of places where it'd be cool to visit or live for a bit. Jackson was one of them.
Yeah.
So this opportunity was big. So when that like kind of lined up, I was like, oh yeah, definitely, like without a doubt. But yeah, not having lived anywhere east of or west of New York was kind of wild, and like seeing Jackson for the first time, knowing that like, oh, I'm like gonna be living here, that was definitely like different and wild for me. But like it all like came down to like initially, like, living in Jackson, Wyoming was the motivation behind that was just having, being a skier and like knowing about Jackson, and then having the opportunity to live somewhere that I've wanted to live for one reason for a long time, skiing. But linking that into, like an opportunity through school and work, like both school and work. 'Cause that's what there was. I was, getting credits through school while I was interning. It's like lined up well, and it just seemed like it. I don't know. It was a good place to spend some time for a bit.
Definitely.
I don't know if that was,
Was it? Were you? Was it a thing where you were like, you had found Stio and you were like, oh, I really want to work here, so I'm like checking the job boards, or like, what was your thought process in like, I guess even trying to get the internship at Stio?
Okay, so I'll kind of give some background here. So had last year at school, first year.
What college you go to?
Went to Linden State College in Vermont, now called
Linden State
Northern Vermont University. They changed the name my senior year.
Oh, really?
So I graduated from Northern Vermont University, but went to applied to Linden State College.
That's kind of funny.
So yeah. Which is kind of funny. I was, and me and everyone else below me, I guess, also applied to Linden State, but graduated NVU. Yeah. We were the first class to graduate NVU. But anyways, I was part of the mountain recreation management program at Linden. And they have a really good program there's 2 focuses in that major. Outdoor education, which is like outdoor leadership type of thing. I think it's actually called adventure leadership. And I'm speaking for the program that was in place, prior to it becoming NVU. Now they've changed the names, but it's still the same program. So there's adventure leadership, which is like outdoor education, and then mountain resort management, which is like ski resort management, and essentially just that. And that was what my focus was in school, and finding that when I applying to colleges, I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do. I was like, I want to ski.
Yeah,
I was like, I want to ski, and that's
a major that's related to skiing.
Yeah, and I was like, wait, I can major in skiing. I can go to college to ski. I was like, hell yeah, sign me up. So that happened. Was living in Vermont. Vermont is a great place to be. I love it there. So that happened, and anyways, going off on a tangent here, but the whole internship thing came up to my senior year, first semester, senior year, and I was told I needed an internship for second semester, and I was like, I don't know what the hell I want to do at this point. I know I want to live and work somewhere within the ski industry where I can ski and meet a lot of cool people and that type of thing. And then one of my internship advisor, Sean Dahl, shout out to Sean Dahl. He is the man. He pointed me towards Stio. He was like, yeah, Stio is really cool. This is this really cool brand. I know you're interested in marketing. They have a really cool brand. You should check them out. Really cool products. So I did, but so even to backtrack again, kind of all over the place. So the reason for him pointing out Stio to me was because I had wanted to be in Jackson anyways, because there was during the month of January, I had the opportunity to take an avalanche course through school to get credits to go towards graduation. So I didn't need as many credits as in internship hours for my internship. And, yeah, so he was like, oh, if you want to do that and have an internship in Jackson, you should check out Stio. I did that, ended up lining up. But prior to that, I don't know, I could kind of relate that to my whole going to college. I was like, I don't know where I want to go to college, what I want to do in college. And then the right thing, and I was like, okay, Linden. And then I was like, I don't know where I want to have an internship. Ended up lining up right with Stio. I was like, okay, Jackson. So that happened, and that was great, but yeah, I guess I kind of got off track there, but the motivation behind both of those things was mainly skiing, and I knew that was the constant in kind of making a decision towards what I wanted my life, what I wanted in my life, something that I valued the most.
Yeah,
was because I guess a lot of things in my life just come down to what I value, and the few constants that are there, skiing being one of them. The fact that I could make decisions in where my life is going based around that and have it work out pretty well was cool. But not knowing that that was something I cared about, I wouldn't have made decisions on where to go to college, where to get an internship, where to get a job, that type of thing. So yeah, once seeing the alignment there.
Yeah, once you're, I think there's something that happens, and at different times for everybody. That's when you actually realize that you can go and live and do kind of whatever you want, within reason, obviously, within the law.
Within the law.
Is such a big step, because it's not just I grew up. Then it changes from I grew up here, I go to college near here, and then I go to get a job that's also around here, just because
based on location.
There's not that
it's not just
abstract thought of wait, with a degree,
Yeah.
I can go anywhere.
Yeah.
You
And
could go to freaking
do this one thing.
Japan,
if
that's what you like, or like what you said, you wanted your college experience and then post college experience to be around skiing.
Yeah.
So maybe that was in Vermont for college, but it could have been anywhere. Could have been you could have gone to like Colorado State or Montana State.
Yeah.
Or and then
Colorado Mountain College was a similar program to London with the mountain resort management.
Yeah. Oh, cool. And then so I just think that's such a big step in just like almost like brain development when you go and be like, I can be anywhere.
Yeah.
And especially with today's technology, like, whether you want to do, a job like mine or like have your own little business, you really can be anywhere.
Yeah, no, totally. It's funny that, the relationship between like, I guess just like having, knowing you like give a shit about something like skiing was like, that's something that's like bigger than myself that like I care about, other than like, fundamental things like family and stuff. Obviously those are, when I was talking about things that I value, that's another thing that falls into that. But how something like, you're like, oh, skiing or football or whatever it may be, you just like start there, and then it's like, oh, like where can I go with that? And it's like,
exactly,
it was like steps, but it was steps towards whatever it is getting here, I guess. But like
people,
it was always based around like the thing that I cared to do and to pursue was just skiing, and whatever form, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
just
totally.
I don't know.
People,
that sounds corny.
Don't get to that point at a time that would allow them to influence their life as often as they probably should.
And it's not always that easy.
Like you said before, like care about things, when you're applying to colleges, like you don't know what you want to get into, but if people started that thought process more in like, what do I care about, outside of the obvious of friends and family and shelter and loving and all that stuff. What do I care about and what do I want to do with my life? If they started there instead of like starting at the end of like maybe what can pay well, what job do I want?
Because that was never an influencing decision. Like a decision maker for me, and that was never even something I knew. You know what I mean?
We're in America.
It was like, I don't fucking know that.
Anything, and you could make a living.
Right, F-bombs, safe.
No, you're good. Yeah, you're good.
Okay, cool.
It's a podcast. We can do whatever the fuck we want.
I didn't know if you had the, parameters you wanted to. I don't know.
No, I mean,
I'm glad to see that.
Yeah. So,
anyways,
but we're in America in a great economic time.
Yeah.
You could have any interest, and you could make a living out of it. Like skiing, you could work for a ski manufacturer. You could work for a ski shop. You could become a pro skier. You could be a filmer for skiers. You could be a photographer for skiers. You could work at a company like Stio that makes the clothing for skiing. You could work at the ski resort. You could be a ski instructor. You could do a podcast about skiing. You could do, and I'm a big, do you know who Gary Vee is?
No.
Gary Vaynerchuk. So he's this like marketing guru and entrepreneur guy. And he most of what he preaches is about pursuing happiness and instead of money. And this is kind of where I'm getting this from. And he says one of his funny examples is, if you love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, freaking have a YouTube channel talking about them, reviewing comics, flipping comic books, flipping the toys, have a podcast about it that's supported by like a small toy company or a comic book store, and you might make 85K, but you're doing it talking and presenting about the one thing you love the most. And that's better. You'll be happier in the long term than like if that person was like, oh, my dad wants me to go to med school, or my dad wants me to be the lawyer because he's a lawyer. And then you try to do that, and you're making a lot more money, but you feel like shit because you don't like what you're doing.
That's something I have like value a lot and always have in like my, making like what I'm doing and making decisions like as far as in my life and whatnot. I think a big thing for me was like always being able to have fun and knowing like what it is that I want to be doing, like what makes me happy as far as like how I'm having fun. You know what I mean? If I'm not doing that, we're like, what am I doing? Like that's all. You know, that kind of might sound corny too, but like,
Yeah.
but it's true, and that was a motivating factor behind making decisions for like where to go, where I wanted to be, and like just taking it as it came with that. But like always, there was never that was always the basis. The basis was like as long as I can like have fun doing things that I want to do, like then like I'll do it. You know.
Yeah, and you'll work hard. Not just you. Everyone will work harder and longer at something if
Yeah.
it's something they really believe in and know what they love to do.
Exactly, and that's always like that's just I don't know. That's always been something that I valued, and I never had to see like an end. Like I never was like, oh, like I need to be that. I'm not going to be able to be that. It was like no, like as long as I'm pursuing something that I care about and that like I'm working towards having fun every day, like then yeah, I have these ideas in my head for
You have
like what,
goals.
yeah,
Obviously.
exactly. But it's like the goal, the short term goal is to like be enjoying what you're doing. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
like
enjoy life.